Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first of our Bacardi Talks series. We're excited to have you all today. My name is Brian Connors. I'll be your host, your moderator, and your keeper of all things fun today. So a few housekeeping issues before we get started. Just so everyone is aware, we are live and we are recording this content for future use. Also, we will have time for question and answers towards the end of the program. We have lots to talk about, so feel free to add to your chat function on Zoom, or if you are one of our guests joining us for Facebook Live, in the comments section, then they'll be relayed back to me, and I'll try to fit them in. And for whatever reason, if we cannot fit that question in, we will try like heck to get back to you with a response. So if you need a response, feel free to add in your email address, and one of us will gladly get back to you. So with our housekeeping done, let me do a quick little introduction of our fabulous Dean Michael Chang. Dr. Chang, sir, how are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So thank you again, Brian. Good afternoon, all, and welcome to the FIU Chaplin School of Hospitality and Tourism Management's Bacardi Talks, hosted by the Bacardi Center of Excellence at the Chaplin School. So this is the first of many upcoming events organized by Professor Brian Connors, our faculty director for the Bacardi Center of Excellence. And Brian will explain in more detail about what the Bacardi Center of Excellence is shortly after this. Before we get started, I want to take a moment of silence to acknowledge all the hurt and grief that's happening in our communities all across the world as a result of the pandemic, and also as a result of the tragic deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. Thank you. Now I want to start by thanking the Bacardi family and the Bacardi North America leadership, Pete, Ryan, Heidi, who are our speakers today, for their support of our Chaplin School. It is because of Bacardi's $5 million gift and their belief and alignment with our values that we're able to co-create this Bacardi Center of Excellence. Bacardi was also first to the table to join us when we decided to establish the South Beach Wine Food Festival and FIU Chaplin School Hospitality Industry Relief Fund, along with Badia Spices and countless other donors. To date, the Relief Fund has awarded over $1.5 million and impacted over 8,500 employees of independently owned and operated restaurants and bars in South Florida. You see, Bacardi truly believes in supporting and elevating our hospitality industry. They have generously shared their talent, their expertise, and assets with all, not just during this time, not just with us, but consistently. They have shared research with on-premise operators on what is necessary to stock their bars with as we continue to reopen during this time. They have also pledged $4 million in financial aid and other support to help people on the front line of our industry through this crisis from their Raise Your Spirits initiative. They quickly shifted production at 12 of their distilleries across the world to produce nearly 400,000 gallons of hand sanitizers, with the majority donated to first responders. Clearly, you can see Bacardi isn't doing this for themselves. They are truly practicing the ethos of fearless family and founders. Now, please welcome Professor Brian Connors.
Thank you, Dean Chang. And boy, man, we got a great lineup for you guys. I'm so excited today because in the last few months since we launched the Bacardi Center of Excellence, I've really enjoyed working with everyone with Bacardi North America, with Team Enterprise. And we're not just blowing sunshine up you know where, because it's really been a value driven, and I really enjoyed it. So a quick little program update before we get into our speakers today. As Dean Chang said, we have many initiatives launched already. Of course, feel free to check out Bacardi Teach. We've launched our learning modules on there, earn your badges and certificate. And just to inform everyone, there is more to come. We are just getting started with Bacardi Teach. Our Bacardi Spirits Management Tracker Major is also available now too. Please reach out to your advisor. Feel free to reach out to yours truly, Professor Dodge or Christina, for those that are from the FIU community, and we'll gladly point you in the right direction. Hey gang, there's also scholarship, because Bacardi is also all about giving back. And through the Bacardi Center of Excellence, we have a scholarships, plural, available. Applications are due on June 11th. So we do have a good amount now. We look forward to helping as many people as we possibly can. So keep an eye out for that. And before we get into it, of course, we will have a lot of new innovative things coming up in the fall. And trust me, we can't wait to get back on campus and see so many of you. And those of you that are from outside of the Bacardi world or the FIU world, please, we'll keep you updated, keep posted on future things going on. So that's a quick update on the Bacardi Center of Excellence and all good things we're doing there. All right, let's get into it today. We are joined by Pete Carr, Ryan, Bibbo, and Heidi Vargas. Guys, how are you today?
Doing awesome, thanks.
All right.
Great, Brian.
Ryan, I haven't heard from you yet.
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for kicking it off.
No, my pleasure, my pleasure. So as the panelists already knows, we're going to kind of randomize the questions and kind of go with the flow here. But we do have some customized questions for each one. So I'm going to kind of start it out with Pete, and we'll kind of go from there. We'll wrap up with what I'm going to call my speed rail, some fun questions. And of course, with time, we'll be able to get to our Q&A section. So let's have some fun. So Pete, we're going to start it out with you and me doing some due diligence. And I already knew a lot about you, but there's a great video on PBS that you just launched recently, and you're on there talk. I see you smiling, buddy. And I listened to it quite a few times. As a matter of fact, on my run this morning, and I love some of the things you're saying. You're quoting Peter Drucker, all about culture, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about your take. Remember, we have students, we have industry, we have all sorts of good people listening in now. So let's hear more about why culture is so darn important at Bacardi.
You know, I can tell you, first of all, you probably should have listened to that before you went to bed. It probably would have helped you sleep, I think, more than anything. But first of all, we're really excited about being part of FIU and this new venture. I think it's been a missed opportunity, for years. And Bacardi had just come to Southern, and I remembered all the great things that you do at South Beach Food and Wine Fest. And it seemed like just a great match to get everybody together. But we're a private company, so that allows us to do things differently, to build a different culture. We don't think quarter to quarter or half years or full years. We think very long term. The family's been around for 158 years and will continue. And that's the first thing. Being private allows you to do a lot of different things than being held to a P&L, whether it's investment, whether it's doing activities, and investments like this with FIU makes a huge difference. We really base Bacardi off of what we call the 3 F's. And it's really about being a founder. That's how you spend your money. So think about if you owned a bar or worked in a restaurant or opened your own hotel. It's founder. Spend the money like it's your own. Think like you would long-term to build a legacy. It's about being fearless. And in this culture today with the pandemic, the riots, all the uncertainty, you really have to be fearless as to how you approach it. We've had more bars and restaurants shut down, and those owners and entrepreneurs really are fearless. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of the ideas we've seen that have come out of that fearless. And the last piece is really about family. And you love your family no matter what. You'll do anything for your family, but you stick together in good times and in bad, and you support one another. Our best ideas don't come from consultants. They come from our bartenders. They come from our wait staff. They come from the primos in our company. And that's what we call people. Primos means cousin. If you're not as bilingual as I am, after my 4 words of Spanish. But it really does. And our best ideas, I always say, bring your best idea and your best attitude, and we'll figure everything else out. Give me those things. Dress however you want to come into our culture, our building, because I don't care what you're wearing. More importantly, I care about you and your ideas. Just don't look like you rolled off of South Beach at like 3 o'clock in the morning and came to work, is all I ask. But it's really about the community and the opportunity that we get to give back that makes a difference, because we do have a really caring nature in this family environment that we work in. So when you guys called and said, hey, look, will you support? We were like, we're down with that right away. We're in 100%. It didn't take the 3 of us 2 seconds to say, what are we doing? That's important. I mean, with COVID going on, we have to take care of our own people. People are working from home. They got kids, they got family, they got husband that working. We had to augment a shifting. It's about caring. The curfews. We have people that are out working. The curfews. We're like, look, go home. We'll come back another day, figure it out. We encourage people to take vacation during this time. Zoom. I don't know if anybody's all zoomed out by now. I am. But more importantly, it's about taking care of each other and family. And people feel that as a culture. They know you care. They're going to work that much harder for you. And it seems so simple, but yet it's very difficult to get so many people to know you care about them, you love them, and you want the best for them. And then there's the company.
You know, I think that's wonderful. You know, and I even have it written down on the top of my notes here of the family, founders, and fearless, and how you're tying that all together. You know, Ryan, I'm going to kind of switch over to you and dovetail off that culture, because obviously, you know, building that culture is everyone's job. But then, Ryan, you know, as the VP of HR and kind of people and talent, how are you hiring for that culture? Because it's a big challenge.
Yeah, it is, Brian, and you're right. And as Pete alluded to, you know, the culture and the values that Bacardi's had, not just for the last couple of years, but for the whole 158 years, that really has been a pillar for us in terms of the consistency. You know, we'll talk about innovation today and how do we keep things fresh. But it is always interesting around how when you go back to some of the tried and true things, that's not necessarily innovative, but hard to do because it's hard to be consistent. Those are the things that really have helped Bacardi over the course of the last 158 years. So when we start thinking about talent for us, you know, really it is a blend of it's IQ and EQ, as we call it, right? We obviously we need smart people. We need people that are going to, you know, change up things. We got Heidi here you're going to hear from. I mean, she will come up with ideas that Pete and I will look at ourselves and like, never would have thought of that, but that's fantastic. But there's also the EQ piece of things, right? And that is that logical sense. You know, how are we going to be able to make things where we don't need to have a 47-page PowerPoint presentation to tell us something that's going to make sense in maybe 5 sentences? And so that's been a real big pillar for us in terms of how do we blend those two. And so, you know, being productive and pushing the envelope, you know, one of the big things that we've used in the past, Pete and I argue around who started this one, but we call it the little acronym for ourselves, which is DJIC, which is drive, judgment, influence, and consistency. If you think about whether it's world leaders, corporate leaders, people on your team, you know, up and coming early career people that are coming out of university right now, if they have those four measurables, if they have the drive to go do what they need to do, get it done, if they have the judgment to make just good decisions, right? There's good decisions that you can make in the business world and in the personal world. Influencing. It doesn't matter whether you're Pete as being the president and CEO of North America, or if you're a freshman in college, you have to be able to influence people to take your ideas along the path, to get people to come along with you. And then that consistency piece, which is always, it's hard to be consistent all the time, but when you start building that, you're building your personal brand. And that's a big part that we look for too, in terms of our talent is, you know, do we have people that can live up to those 4 measurables? Have they demonstrated that? Can they explain that demonstration to us? And when we start honing in on that talent, we see success. And so that's a big piece of what we look for. Again, not only from our early career teams and people that we hire through, but all the way through down to our on-premise teams under Heidi, the ambassadors, you know, all the advocacy people we work for, and all the way through to the corporate team. So there's a consistent approach that we're able to apply, Brian, to across the organization, and that seems to work for us.
Yeah, definitely does, because working so far with Bacardi Center of Excellence and all the ambassadors has just been fantastic. So Heidi, you're definitely being put on the hot seat there a little bit, you know, they were, but, you know, both Ryan and Pete talked about innovation, and I'd love to hear some of your insights. And I'm going to use, you know, probably my worst cliche out there, but it is true, this new normal. And what we're seeing here now in industry is quite interesting, that bar service, bar operations, how people are kind of experiencing hospitality is changing. So Heidi, you know, kind of what are you seeing now in the on-premise space, and what are we going to be looking forward to in the future?
Yeah, so great question. And as things are reopening, we hear a lot from our team on the field and kind of use them for insights. I mean, we have a lot of people out there on the street to make me look a lot smarter and better at my job. But you know, the first part of this COVID crisis, we went into survival mode as a company with the on-premise. And what that was really just, Dean talked about our relief efforts behind the Raise Your Spirits campaign. And that gave our ground force such a tremendous opportunity to do a bottoms up grassroots effort to stay close and engage with bartenders that were either still employed or had been furloughed or had been laid off. And it kept those relationships super top line and important. And it kept us relevant with the trade. And that's, Pete already talked about how we embrace the bartenders and the servers. It's such an important relationship for us. So that was the first part. Now we're moving into the reopening phase. And as we see things reopening, we're definitely following trends, and consumers feel super comfortable going towards bigger brands that they trust, and they are iconic and trusted brands. So what we're seeing is that people are really going to those bigger brands like Bacardi, like Patron, like Grey Goose, and they're really visiting casual dining more often than they would go to like a bar or a neighborhood sports bar. So we're seeing casual dining, we're seeing big brands, and then of course takeout and delivery. That was a huge shift that the industry made to keep revenue alive when the dining option was closed. So a lot of these amazing operators turned to some significant revenue solutions behind cocktail kits and make your own mojito at home type of thing. So it depended on the law, and that was quite challenging as a company to keep updated with what was happening as states started to close and then now reopen. But the team on the ground has been super imperative about following those trends and then making sure that they're doing the right thing for the operator, because we all know it's hard enough to open a bar the first time, but let alone the second time. They have limited revenue. The consumer confidence is a little shaky right now. So anything we can do to support getting traffic through those doors and helping these operators reopen is our focus right now.
Yeah, perfect. And I love the fact that all three of you keep on coming back to innovation and how we're kind of looking towards the future on that. So, Pete, let's kind of roll back to you on that kind of elevating the industry what do you see in kind of the next steps that Bacardi North America is going to be doing to kind of elevate? And, if you want to throw in, you guys do an amazing job with corporate responsibility and basically good citizenship. So feel free to talk about that too, because you guys do outstanding work.
Yeah, innovation, a lot of people think it just has to be a product. It necessarily doesn't have to be a product. It can be a simple idea that makes your business more efficient. It could be something that you motivate your team with. But we really start with consumer insights. And that's where we really start with what's happening. I travel a lot, or used to travel a lot. When I go to a hotel, or I go to a restaurant, every other night, I make sure I eat at the bar. And I just talk to the bartender and I just watch what's being poured and ask them for their thoughts, their ideas on our brand, on the competition, and kind of pick their brain because they're living it and seeing it. When I look at FIU, the one thing I really love about this opportunity we have together is all the young people. When I went to Nebraska, where the N stands for knowledge. It's very important. And the key there was, I remember going to school, but I never really knew how it translated straight into business. But as being in the business world for the last 30 years and seeing FIU, if we can bring real world, real things that are happening daily, and Dean Chang mentioned it because we're sending them stuff that's really happening in the industry, and put it to work with the folks that are coming through the program, it's going to set them on a path to success like nobody's business, because they're going to be learning as they go about what's happening in the industry. It's not going to be just classroom. It's going to be real world plus the classroom. But you heard hand sanitizer. We hadn't made hand sanitizer ever. We didn't even think it was a thing until people came to us and said, can you produce hand sanitizer? True story. I was sitting out in my backyard, and one of the guys texted me and said, you're going to get a call from the governor. And I go, oh yeah, who's next? Billy Idol? I'm like, whatever. So I'm having a cocktail. It's early COVID, and sure enough, my phone starts to ring, and I see a Tallahassee number, and I thought, God, maybe it really is the governor. So I pick it up. Sure enough, it's the governor. And he says, can you make hand sanitizer? And I said, I can, but you got to get the FDA out of our way to do X, Y, and Z. We'll produce it. So sure enough, he calls me. He goes, I'll call you back. Calls me the next day, says, the head of the FDA is going to call you. Get your chemist or figure out who it is. And we went right to making hand sanitizer. We made over 10,000 cases here in Florida for first responders, hospitals. We've been into some bars and stuff. but innovation is unique and different. We can go through the brand pieces of it, and a lot of that to me is kind of common sense. If the no-low trend, the high-end cocktail trend, we're seeing Martini go through the roof. And quite frankly, maybe we did a little bit of business with it, but not like it is now, because everybody's trying to figure out how to make their own Negroni. So those are things we learn as we go. But innovation to me is making sure you're at the forefront of an idea and executing it, because a lot of people hold back. We just launched Bacardi in a can. And the sales force was like, there's no way, Pete, we can sell a 4-pack for, $12.99. I was like, you want to bet? Sure enough, we're going to do 300,000 cases this year. And the original forecast was 60,000. So think about that in terms of, so innovation to me is just not the physical activity, but it's the mental activity that has to come with it.
And it sounds like a little bit of luck too. You never know when the governor's just going to call you, right?
Better lucky than good, believe me.
Yeah, no, and we had the opportunity to try some of the new Bacardi can product during a podcast, and we gave it your thumbs up on that one. So we'll have to circle back on that one, Pete. But thank you very much.
I got one right here. Do a little advertising.
There you go. So all good. So these next couple of questions, we'll go right back to Pete and Heidi. But again, keeping, and Pete, you said it real well, but keeping a 158-year-old brand really relevant. And how does that happen? How do you keep this legendary brand? And Heidi, if you want to take this one, or Ryan, it's up to you guys, but I'm always amazed by that ability to keep this incredibly relevant.
Well, I'll speak from an on-premise perspective. We have a tremendous amount of talent in our advocacy team and our ambassadors. We have nearly 100 people that represent not only Bacardi, but a variety of our brands across the nation. And they are passionate about the brand. They can talk about the intrinsics, the ins and outs, but it all goes back to the family heritage and how we are still a family-owned company, and we treat, as Pete mentioned, our primos like that, but we treat our counterparts, our colleagues, our bartenders like that. And so we invest a lot of time and energy behind making sure we have the right people telling the right story and the authentic story behind our brands. And so we're super proud of that, and they do a great job.
Yeah, real. And Ryan, anything to add to that? I want to talk to Heidi real quick about Vegas. I know you're a Vegas veteran, and I have down in my notes, and I've spent some time with you, but in Vegas is a huge hub for hospitality. What's the good word on the street? Are we going to have a great comeback in Vegas?
Yeah, well, today it opens. Today it reopens. Wynn Resorts opened last week, and today several of the MGM properties opened. A really close friend of mine it replaced me at Bellagio, and so she's reopening 38 bars and lounges today. But yes, we are going to have a great comeback. In fact, when the doors opened, some of the casinos that already opened their doors, they had a huge rush of people in there. So I think people are pent up. They are tired of being at home. They're a little bit more confident. So yeah, a lot of they've done a great job of announcing their sanitation procedures and kind of elevated safety guidelines, which I think really makes these consumers a lot more confident. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with the response for consumers, because quite frankly, I was a little unsure as well. But the word is that, at least we're the ones that are open, and the dining establishments that are open are having a really great comeback. Where we're going to see some of the challenge is kind of those large gatherings behind nightlife and the traditional Vegas pool party. They're not reopened right now, but seeing what happened over Labor Day or Memorial Day weekends, I was pretty shocked that people were just willing to get out and get in the water and party pool style. So I think that when they do reopen, it's safe. They're making sure that their employees are safe, that the customers are safe. And yeah, it's a really good story. We're excited to see what happens.
Yeah, let's all keep a hope. And then Miami next. We got to get Miami and South Florida moving forward as well. Hey, let me circle back real quick, because I don't want to breeze over this with Ryan, because for those of you that are on this webinar now, or our conversation, as we call it, that either had me in the classroom, or I've seen a couple of my cruise ship buddies out there as well. So Z-Man, good to see you. People development. I'm incredibly passionate about people development. And I love to hear Ryan's take on some of his strategies that, kind of here and now in the future of where he's going with talent development, particularly when he knows he's found that right person that's a culture fit.
Yeah, it's a great point, Brian. And you know, for Bacardi, like a lot of organizations, obviously short-term and long-term are both important. And if you're not addressing both, you're missing something. You know, we see a lot of organizations out there that will do the focus on one versus the other. But again, for us, it is focusing on both. And so like one of the areas I'd spotlight is we focus on a program that we created, which is called 70-20-10. And that is how we're going to create, you know, the development for a primo, as Pete mentioned, which is what we call our employees. We'll create a development plan with them through the 70-20-10 process. And basically what that means is we want 70% of what their development or their learning is going to come from real world on the job experience, right? Call it trial by fire. Nobody learns better than when you're in it. And, you know, and that happens specifically with our commercial teams. You know, when you're out there and you're carrying the bag and you're having those conversations, whether it be on the retail side or on the on-premise side with Heidi and the group, that's where you're really going to learn and grab that experience. So we make sure that we put people in those experiences early and often. The 20% of it is really about the coaching and mentoring. And, you know, that's a piece that sometimes can, again, cliched and it can sound nice. And it is something that, to be honest with you, in this COVID experience right now with not being able to reach out and have conversations and shake somebody's hand, it's difficult. It's more difficult to do. So we're certainly working through around how we can become as effective as we have been in the past. But again, having those coaching and mentoring programs that we work with, and one of the, you know, whether it's again, through people inside your function, outside your function, people from across the world. You know, I've had both, you know, from a mentor perspective, I support people both from Dubai, Australia, and then also in the US. And getting those experiences also helps with reverse mentoring. Pete and I are two people that are going through right now through our digital immersion programs and getting literally reverse mentored. I just call it mentoring because I don't care about it. You know, it doesn't matter about job titles and such, but some of our primos that are involved in terms of the digital marketing space and the social media parts of it. You know, Pete and I are trying to keep up. You know, it's something new. I get a better chance of asking my 11-year-old, and he's got a couple of 20-year-olds that can tell him what to do. But that's all a part of the development program. I'm getting as much out of that as they are, if not more so. And so, you know, that's a big part of it. And then the final 10% of that 70-20-10 is that classroom learning. And, you know, it is that formalization that we do. And that can be a small part in that 70-20-10 or big. If you think about it on an annual basis, 10% out of, you know, the 220 some odd, you know, work days in the year, that's 22 days of learning. And that's a lot, right? You're talking 200 hours or so of classroom learning that we want to try to get people into. And so we've obviously partnered with FIU. We've worked with other, you know, world-class organizations as well, to get people those experiences. So that's a big part of it for us. And so that's a lot of it, what I would say is the short-term piece. And then just to touch on the long-term piece, it is that formalization of things like a 10-year career plan. We want to make sure that people, again, whether they're starting at the early careers all the way through mid-management and even senior management, is what are those goals out there? What is that spot that you want to get to? Do you set that target on a role? And that role can be living and breathing. You may want to say, I want to be the CMO, you know, at 10 years, and you might get into a commercial job and say, you know what, I want Pete's role. I want to run North America. And so it's not something stagnant that you get 3 years into it and you say, man, I should have put something different on there. It's living, it's breathing, it's moving as you get those experiences. So to us, that's a very important part for us to be able to make sure that we get the development out of it. And for that, that's a win, right? That's a win for the company. That's a win for the organization, our business, and most importantly, our primo as they develop. And that really helps our retention strategy as well.
Good. I love that. Absolutely love that. Quick follow-up on that, Ryan. Obviously doing a little bit of a deeper dive. Tell me a little bit about hashtag more than work, you know?
Yes. Yeah, a big part, again, so we always say we're very fortunate at Bacardi, right? You know, we, no offense to our CPG brethren that work in toilet paper companies or, you know, and anything like that, but we work for Bacardi, right? We really have some fantastic brands that you can kind of see blurred out behind me on it. We are really about celebrating those moments that matter. And that's really what it's about. So what we see is how people have truly, almost on their own, this wasn't a corporate mandate. This was something that came from our primos that said, I integrate a lot of my work into just what I do, whether I'm going out to a restaurant, again, pre-COVID, and as we ramp back up, whether I'm out at picnics or ball games or whatever it is, our brands are showing up to be celebrated. So the comments really have been, really heartfelt from some of the primos that have said, look, what we're doing is fun. Meeting with people and going out to the, meeting, especially on the commercial side of things, the distributor groups and the entertainment venues that we work with. I had a great example of the other day where I was talking to one of our salespeople, and they were working with Live Nation and some of the work that we're doing with them. And their comment was, I get paid for this. I get paid to start working with some of these, these wonderful artists. That's really what we've found it to be it's more, it really truly is more than work for a lot of people within Bacardi. So we started that, it took off and it became really organic. And I think it's been a great message for the organization and for our primos.
Yeah, and if anyone gets bored with that, there's lots of great content on YouTube on More Than Work, so good stuff. So let me jump over to Pete real quick, because I just had something sent to me I think is a really interesting question, and it was kind of captured as the Amazon factor, meaning that we are all, I don't know about you guys, but the Amazon guy is at my front door at least every day. So how do you think the Amazon factor is going to impact the spirits industry and the adult beverage industry as we kind of move forward, Pete? Or do you think it's a non-issue?
Competition is always an issue, but I want to back up real quick because Ryan touched on something that I think is important for people to understand. He mentioned it earlier, the personal brand is extremely important. One of the things I see a lot of people, and it goes to what Ryan was talking about, your career, your progression, and where you want to be, is who do you stand for as a brand? What is it? In 4 words or less. So it can't be like a paragraph. For me, it's faith, family, gym. I'm a workout junkie, and it's work. I like to work. I enjoy work. I enjoy the people. I enjoy the business. But it's really, if I was to ask you, who are you as a brand? You need to come back and say, these are the things that are important to me. Like I said, 4 words or less, no run-on sentences. But the minute you decide who that is, you're going to find that you can create a lot of success for yourself going forward, because you don't get distracted. You don't chase empty promises, empty dreams. You really stay focused on who you are to the core. And it's just something for the folks to think about. But Amazon, anybody's competition, anybody can make you better. The biggest thing we've seen during COVID is people didn't know you could buy alcohol online. Or also, there's a 3-tier system in the spirit, wine, and beer business by the 21st Amendment. So you have to follow that 3-tier system. In other words, it goes from supplier to distributor to retailer to consumer. In some areas of the country, like Texas and Oklahoma, there's a 4th tier in there. So Amazon has a very difficult time breaking into this business because they usually take those tiers and they squish them into one. By law, we have to go through that. So we're a little protected from Amazon, but we can go direct to consumer through Drizzly. There's other innovative things that are happening. So we literally plan to invest probably $4 to $5 million in e-com over the next 4 to 5 years. We dropped $5 million in the first 2 weeks because we stopped doing a bunch of other things like TV advertisement, media, everything else, and reallocated our resources to move very quickly in that space. And that's when you go back to one of our big bets for the best 10, we look at the next 10 years. It's really the consumer at the heart. What is the consumer doing? You heard me talk about it when we think about innovation, we talk about insights, listening to bartenders. It's really the consumer. What are they doing? Where are they going? And how do we quickly support their needs and wants, whether it's ready to serve drinks, whether it's like a White Claw or a Bacardi in a can, whether it's how do you make your own cocktails. Heidi can talk about all the different online activities with Punch and other bartender communities we've done. But there's a lot that's going on with that. So Amazon, not so worried about it. Will they find a way into the business? I think so. I think so. So we got our eye on them, and we got to move quick. Southern's done an amazing job of doing online through SGF Proof. So if you own a bar, restaurant, retail, you can literally go online just like you would in Amazon. And you can get educated. For the first time, we're able to talk directly to bartenders, directly to retail store owners, which is unique. So we can market B2B now. We weren't able to do that through their site. And then you can order whatever you want. You can do it just like you would shop on Amazon. So Wayne and the Southern organization have put a lot of money and energy into that. And I think that's going to be a game changer. Think about if you own a bar, it shuts down at 2 a.m. You don't necessarily have to wait for your rep. you can put your order in right there. And then you can see your rep the next day whenever you come in, if it's later in the day or whatever it is. But you can get that activity taken care of instantly.
Yeah. And Heidi, that kind of brings it right back to, what we're going to be seeing behind the bar and what we're going to be seeing on premise. And what are you seeing kind of, what's going to be that new product behind the bar that everyone's going to want to be supporting, offering, all that good stuff?
Well, we definitely are seeing a limited assortment of what is offered behind the bar. So that's when we talked about those big brands and kind of well-trusted brands. Those are the ones to see that are doing better than others at this point. As far as cocktails, we're seeing a lot of the overdone and too many ingredient cocktails of the past are definitely out the window. People want less things in their drink. They want less human touch in their drinks. So Pete mentioned the ready to drinks and even ready to serve cocktails. Draft cocktails are going to be huge. And then also like a lot of dehydrated fruit. So instead of having, fresh limes and fresh lemons, we're seeing a lot of dehydrated fruits. For as far as kind of physical menus, we're just seeing one use only. So just paper menus that you toss after somebody touches it. But we're seeing a lot of innovation behind QR codes, whether that's driven through the account. We also have solutions like that with Bacardi. So we're giving those solutions to these customers to put their cocktail menu on a QR code. We're also seeing less drinks offered. So whereas you might use, in the past, you maybe had 20 drinks on your cocktail menu, we're seeing a less assortment as far as the drinks listed as well. So I think the theme here is simplicity. Everybody's kind of going back to the basics and keeping it super clean, super simple. And it's quite refreshing. I think that we kind of needed that change a little bit. We don't have to wait, 3 or 5 minutes for our cocktails anymore. So I think bartenders are really happy with that. I know that mojitos, for example, the bartenders in Vegas that I used to manage hated making mojitos. And so I actually did a competition one time, said, okay, make a mojito, timed it, make a margarita, timed it, exact same amount of time. But it's just the effort that they think it takes away to make that drink. So I think simplicity is where we're seeing things go.
And I agree. And I like that. I mean, my background in high volume up in Newport, Rhode Island was how quick we get that over the bar. Or, if someone bartender is going to ask me if I want my cucumber bruised, we got a problem coming. So it's about getting that product. Dean Chang just sent me a quick note there. Michael, why don't you just jump on and ask Ryan that question? Feel free. I think it's a good question on digital.
Ryan, you were talking about your workforce and how you coach them and how you prepare them. I was thinking for the future, how would you adapt any of what you're doing to get them ready for this digital world? Because, I'm seeing a trend where employees are not necessarily jumping up to say, I want to go back to the office.
Yeah, Michael, it's a great question, Dean. We like a lot of organizations, most organizations are going through that whole piece right now in terms of just what is the office going to be in the future. And, we've seen a mix. It's certainly been closer to that 80-20 level of some level of flexibility going forward. This can work. Look what we're doing here. We've got 200 plus people or so that we're chatting with. We're not in an auditorium. We've just reached up. It's even higher. Brian's like, it's even higher.
We're close to 400, buddy.
There you go. So 400 people all across the world, right? And so I think people are finding it. And it wasn't long into the conversations or during COVID where, Pete, Heidi, myself, and the rest of the leadership team were talking and saying, is there anything that really has to happen back there? We love our office. If anybody's been to the Bacardi office in Coral Gables, I'm biased, but it is beautiful. We've done it in the right way. Of course, we have bar in the office. We've got 3 of them for those that are going to ask the question in the chat box. But the thing we're missing is the collaboration piece. And so I think that's going to be the interesting thing, Dean, is how do we make sure that we allow the flexibility for our team members and our primos, but not lose the collaboration, right? There's still something there in terms of what this industry specifically is. And it is a face-to-face industry, right? It is something around we can all do our Zoom happy hours, but there's just something different to, sitting in a bar or restaurant and having a cocktail crafted by a skilled bartender or mixologist, and we're being in Vegas, as Heidi was talking about. So that is the big part for us around how we're going to move forward. And to your question of how we're going to get ready, we're looking at every piece of technology possible, and past that, we're looking at really listening, I guess, is the best way I would tell you. And this is the old adage too, Brian, you mentioned, it's an old cliche, but it works. You got to listen to people. And that's another big part for us that we've really, I want to say stumbled onto, but it doesn't take you long in a leadership role to find out that, as Pete said, the best ideas don't come from consultants, and they usually don't always come from the C-suite, right? They come from people that are in the business, that are understanding it and saying, hey, you guys made 5 different steps. I can show you how to get there in 2. Right. And that's a big part of what we've done. And we're big believers in the servant leadership viewpoint of management and leadership. And so that's another big part for us. So we're waiting for people, we're listening to people and saying, this will work well for us in the future. This is how we'll get involved with digitalization from a workplace perspective. And then this is how we're going to collaborate, both together in person and then, across the internet.
Perfect. You got the reactions you're getting on the side about having 3 bars in the corporate office.
I knew it.
Yeah, you knew that you were setting yourself up. And for those of you who haven't been there yet, look for a pod where we have a program on demand. We'll bring you for a tour. Spend the day with Ryan and the team there. So we're going to switch gears real quick and have a little bit of fun. We have so many questions coming in that for those of you that were not able to get to your question, we're going to record them and try like heck to get back to you for this one. But I think this, my speed rail is going to be a little bit more fun, and I'll kind of direct it to the person, and there's quick answers, and let's have a little bit of fun here on this one. So Heidi, your margarita, salt or no salt?
I'm a no salt kind of girl.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. All right, Ryan, how about your Bacardi and Coke? Lime, no lime?
Lime.
Lime. All right, good stuff there. Pete Carr, call or text?
Call. I like to talk.
I'm with you on that one, though. All right, Ryan, Uber or Lyft?
Uber.
Uber. Wow, interesting. I think I know the answer to this one, but Heidi, all right, Apple or Android?
Apple.
There you go. Me too. All right, I'm going to pick on Michael Chang real quick. TikTok. Who's on TikTok?
Who is on TikTok?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask all 3 of them that, and I remember having this conversation with all of you guys.
Maybe it's who's addicted to TikTok.
All right, there you go. So I know that answer would be coming from Dean Chang on that one. So all well and good. All right, Ryan, ninja or pirate?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to go ninja.
All right. And we're going to end this little great conversation, by the way, with a little bit of a challenge. For those of you in the audience and don't know our beloved Dean and the wonderful Pete Carr very well, they both have a heavy addiction. The heavy addiction is Peloton. Now, Ryan and Heidi, if you were a betting person, and let's say we put a Peloton challenge out, and we put a Peloton challenge out, so Pete Carr versus Michael Chang, Heidi, who are you voting for?
I gotta vote for my boss. No offense, Dean, but that's my head saying that, but in my heart. But I've also heard you tell stories about the Dean, riding the streets of Vegas at like 4 a.m. for party tours. So I think he's probably it would be a very intense session because Pedro is like hitting the gym at like 4:30 every morning. The difference is I think Pedro probably spices it up, maybe does other things besides Peloton. Because I see the trainers, they work him. So it would be a good race, but I got to go with Pete.
Okay, all right.
I'm younger.
Wait a minute. All right, Ryan, what do you got? And I know you and Pete go back a long, long way, but without the stats in front of you right now, who are you betting on?
Yeah, Pete is uber competitive. I do know that for like we've said. I like the Dean in terms of just sheer Peloton. I think Heidi hit it. If we're talking about like Ninja Warrior stuff.
Well, hang on, Ryan. Let me interrupt you real quick. Let's see Dean Chang in action. Can we see that, Dale?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, that'll work.
Hey.
All right. Look at the form there. He's got good form. Oh, whoa, Pete, he's taunting you. He's literally taunting you there.
Yeah, I know those 2.5-pound weights are just killing him during the circuit training piece of it.
Yeah, totally.
So Ryan, you were saying, sir?
Oh, well, after seeing that video, I might change my mind. We're gonna go. I think I just to make it fun, I got to go with Dean.
You know, my mom just chimed in, literally my mother, and she's betting on you, Dean Chang. So thank you, Mary Connors, for that one, though. This has been great. Hey, Pete, real quick, quick closing thoughts on you because, work-life balance. We know you're up in the gym. I went for a run this morning. Any words of wisdom on that front, sir?
No, I, especially during this time, I think people have realized you got to make time for yourself. I would say make time for yourself first and foremost, and you're going to be much better at the job and much better with your family. But you do have to get away, and we are talking to people about mental health, and you need to talk to people. People really do miss the interaction, but don't be afraid to take time for yourself. Do what you enjoy doing, and then get back to the job. The job's always going to be there. I promise you that. After 30 plus years of thinking I was going to miss out on something, I'm telling you, the job's always there. Your family's not always there, and your mental health isn't always there. So make sure you take care of yourself. And it's never more so important than what we're going through now.
Yeah, I agree. But thank you, guys. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to all three of you. And more importantly, it's an absolute pleasure to work with all three of you. So thank you very much for being the first of our Bacardi Talk series. We definitely have more to come in the near future. We'll look forward to having you guys. Pete, you did agree about doing a podcast, so maybe we'll invite the other part of the team too. I'll keep check us out on the podcast for Two Bar Stools and a Knife with Chef Massey and, of course, the beloved Professor Nathan Dodge. But on that note, again, audience, thank you very much for your joining us this afternoon. Again, we will keep track of the questions and try to get back to you on that stuff. And, of course, feel free to reach out to us directly. You can get me at bconnors at fiu.edu if you have any questions regarding the Bacardi Center of Excellence and all the good things we got coming up. So thank you guys for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you.